Welcome, friends, to the Ink to Film podcast. I'm Luke.
And I'm James.
And we're off this week. We are releasing a From the Vault episode, and we are actually going to be off next week as well. Spoiler. So we're going to be doing back-to-back From the Vault episodes, which is very unusual for us. We don't normally do that. Do you want to share why, James?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be shooting on a feature film. It's going to be shooting for like 15 days over the course of like 3 weeks. So I'm going to be working crazy hours, 10, 12-hour days plus. So it's just not feasible for these next couple weeks. And, we'll miss you guys, but we have some former Patreon content that we're going to release into the main feed here. And this one's specifically going to be about Twilight Zone.
Yeah, the movie.
The movie. And so we talk in the episode a little bit, but like I love Twilight Zone. I've seen, I think, all of the episodes of the original series, and I was really excited to jump into this, but I did know that there was some background stuff, and I kind of blindsided Luke in the episode.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the insanity that went on making this movie, and if you don't know anything either, definitely check it out for that reason. And if you do know, you can sort of laugh at me as I squirm because I didn't. I got blindsided, like James said. But ultimately, it's a pretty fun episode. Listening back to it, we covered it because we once upon a time covered a Richard Matheson adaptation, the 20,000 feet. What is it called?
Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
There you go. Yeah. So we covered that one with the original William Shatner adaptation, and then we wanted to cover this one. Oh, and we did the new one too, the Jordan Peele. So if you want to hear our takes on those versions, go find that episode in the past. I think it was a lot of fun. But this one, it was an excuse to cover this movie, and we get to talk about like all the different portions of it. I remember it was a pretty good time. Hopefully you enjoy.
Yeah, so this is a sample of what Patreon is like for us. So, if you're interested, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/inktofilm. And it really does help to keep the lights on at the podcast, and it keeps us creating, because without it, we might not still be around, honestly.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we just recorded our bonus episode for this month. It is Murder on the Orient Express 2017 version. Note that this Twilight Zone episode, we recorded it in 2019. So it's, if you want to get these things even close to the time in which we're actually putting them on Patreon, you gotta sign up. But
and so looking forward, we are going to announce our projects that are going to be coming after these 2 weeks. Do you want to go ahead and say, Luke?
Yeah, so when we get back, we are going to be tackling an absolute favorite author of mine for the first time on the podcast. We are going to be getting into Kurt Vonnegut, the adaptation for Slaughterhouse-Five in particular, which I actually haven't seen that movie. So I'm excited to see what that adaptation is like. But more than anything, I'm just really, really stoked to get into Kurt Vonnegut, to read that book with you, and get your take on him. I think you're going to enjoy it, but I also I don't want to overhype it for you. So, I'm just going to be really curious to see. And so that's something to look forward to. If you're a Vonnegut fan, or if you just want to know, like, is it something worth reading? Definitely pay attention to that. That'll be out in a few weeks here once we get back.
Yeah, huge blind spot for me. I've never read anything by Vonnegut, so I feel like this is a big moment for me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. All right, guys, enjoy this From the Vault episode. I'm up early. I feel like a demon bunny pulled out of a hat.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go, man. We're talking Twilight Zone, the movie.
So back a while ago, we covered Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Yeah, by Richard Matheson.
And then Nightmare at 30,000 feet.
Right, which was the new Twilight Zone adaptation, the new like Jordan Peele run. But then several people mentioned that we should do this one, right? Because I think this is one that kind of brought it back and made it popular. For the reason I know about it, honestly, is from this one. So I remember watching this in when I was a kid, and it's funny how stuff doesn't affect you as much as an adult. But I remember some of that shit. Like I had to watch it again before it came back. But some of that stuff in the segment 3. I remember like giving me nightmares. Like that shit was like so bizarre and unexpected. Yeah. And as a child, you have no reference for anything, so it's just like I just didn't expect it, and it was like weird watching it again, just like rehashing these childhood memories I had.
Revisiting this it was kind of a mixed bag for me. I think I remembered it more fondly than I actually feel about it now.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not saying I think it's like a great movie or anything. There's 4 different segments done by like I think they're all different directors, written by different people for the most part. Although Matheson had his hands on a lot of it. The third segment that we were just talking about with Little Anthony, it was actually based off a different short story. I saw, but I didn't have a chance to read yet. But I am actually kind of curious what that short story might be like.
So from what I understand, all three of the 4 are based on existing Twilight Zone episodes in some way, and even the fourth one being slightly based on one as well.
Wait, the fourth one's the Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
I just mean like the fourth one isn't directly and I'm talking about the first one. The first one isn't directly referencing another Twilight Zone episode, but it's similar to another Twilight Zone episode.
Okay, that's the racist man's journey through history or whatever. Okay.
Yes. So and to talk about that one off the top, I feel like
whoa, we gotta start with the prologue. We gotta go through chronologically. Okay. Right.
Well, I just have like ancillary stuff that I feel like has to be put out on the table right now, so that we can kind of put this movie into context.
Lay it on the table, James.
Okay. So, how much do you know about the tragedy that happened during the production of this film?
Nothing. 0.
Okay. Well, it's Hollywood legend at this point. It's a horrific tragedy and like oversight by people who were things were overlooked that shouldn't have been, and it led to people's deaths. So basically, Vic Morrow, who was the main actor in this first one,
the first segment, not the prologue.
The first segment here. Yeah, the first segment.
Okay, so the guy who plays the main character. Okay,
main guy.
Gotcha.
Him and some children were they were shooting a scene that was supposed to take place during the Vietnam sequence, and it was supposed to be this sort of like redemptive thing where he gets redemption by saving these Vietnamese kids after like he's been racist the entire time. And due to some there's books on this stuff at this point, but basically a lot of it fell to John Landis, who was the director, and he was able to, I guess, for the most part, shift blame. He's never publicly said that it was his fault in any way.
So what happened?
And the investigations that went on and everything never showed anything. But basically, they lost control of the helicopter, and like supposedly these children and the Vic Moreau all passed away and died.
So the guy died, who's the main character in that segment.
Yes, before filming could complete. So
that's crazy, and they still just put it out, and we're like, we're just gonna go with it anyway.
So this is the thing. So the directors who were attached to this were Steven Spielberg was kind of the person who was like leading the charge with this movie. It was Steven Spielberg, George Miller, who's famous for Mad Max.
Yeah. John
Landis, who I'm talking about currently, who's famous for movies like Animal House and like the Blues Brothers, Trading Places. He apparently it goes on and on, but basically like the investigations found that he wasn't to blame specifically for all of them were arrested. Producers were arrested. Everyone was arrested. Jeez. And it was found that none of them, they were all acquitted, and there was like settlements made out of court because basically children at that time weren't allowed to work at night. And John Landis had circumvented things and made sure that the kids would be on set at night by ignoring protocol and just making sure they were there, hiding people from fire marshals and things like that. And these kids weren't even supposed to be on set, and they died in the helicopter as well. So this whole movie is shrouded in tragedy and like all this other stuff. But wow. Steven Spielberg has like ended a friendship with John Landis. Like supposedly won't speak to him because like he didn't know that these things were going on. But like Spielberg was like the shepherd of this movie, and then John Landis is like avoiding the rules. He's avoiding things that the protocol basically. And
so there was a real helicopter that was going to be flying around. And it crashed or something, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they lost control. There was like explosions going on, I guess, and like there were people on set who said that John Landis was saying to like fly lower. They wanted them to fly lower, and just there's a lot of stuff you can read about it. I don't think we really have time to fully get into it.
Wow.
But basically,
I didn't know so much was going on with this movie. Now I feel kind of weird doing it as just a little bonus episode. But if you're a patron, then you're in for it now. You weren't expecting this, were you? Or maybe you were. Maybe you knew about it. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, to not address it would be crazy because for the time period when the movie came out, everyone knew. Like it was it was huge news that like someone that all these people had died and the movie was still coming out. And what's crazy is this was the first one that they filmed.
Wow.
And like everyone else was contractually obligated. They had like literally contracts. Like Spielberg shot his in 6 days and he was in and out. And he was like, I'm just going to do what I need to do and be done with it. And he was saying that like he was so affected by all the like the passing of all these people that were trusted them and all that stuff that he was just sick to his stomach. Everyone was sick about it. And it's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's horrific. And I didn't know about it, and now I feel like it's gonna be tough to talk about the others artistically. But I think that's what we're gonna try and do, just like deal with them like any other thing we've covered. But yeah, I mean that's obviously tragic and not something to make light of. It's horrible.
Yeah, and it just the reason I did it at the top was just because any person who was going to see this movie in theaters, that was what was on their mind.
Yeah.
And so just going into the movie, there was like, even if you felt all right about it, you're still like, wow, people died, and you know, like it's like a weird feeling.
There was wild stuff going on in the movie making industry in the 80s, huh?
Yeah, well, and this led to like some more strict rules, and basically like people have said it's like there's like this this thing on set now where it's like anybody, if it's unsafe to it's everybody's responsibility to say. It doesn't matter if you're a PA, it doesn't matter what you are. It's everybody's responsibility to speak up if it's not safe. That's the main thing, is like safety. And like Spielberg has had quotes talking about like, you know, it's not life or death. It shouldn't be life or death out here. It's like if things don't get done, things don't get done. If shots don't get made, shots don't get made.
Yeah.
But it should never put anyone in danger to that extent.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of how this is the era of like all the stuff that happened with The Crow, you know, Brandon Lee's death, and just I don't know, people dying on a movie set is wild. That's that should never happen.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think that this is like the tragedy. There's books about it. Like I said, the lawsuit that went into it. I bet basically everyone got off scot-free. No one was in trouble for it.
Wow.
There was like it came. I don't know. It's crazy. Different people blame different people. The FBI found that like it wasn't due to the explosions. It was due to like something going on with one of the rotors and like, I don't know. It's just all.
They just kind of said, tragic. Freak accident, and waved their hands.
Kind of. Yeah. There's like still blame, I guess, somewhere. But John Landis has said it's the special effects person, and so said it's so-and-so. And
wow.
So, yeah.
So that I mean, and that must have been tough to have. You have 3 other directors almost making their own movies. They're all making kind of short films, and now they're all under this pall from this one thing, and the movie's still coming out, and they're still showing some of it. Like that had to be really weird.
Yeah, well, and Spielberg, like when it first happened, thought about just pulling the plug on the whole thing and just being like, forget it.
Yeah,
you know, clearly that goes through your mind.
Wow.
But tragedy and it's awful, but now that we know that, I think we should talk about like what we think about the stories.
Yeah, let's engage with that artistically. Obviously, this is going to be something that I don't know. It's like we can either talk about that or we can talk about it artistically. It's hard to talk about both, so I think we're just gonna have to set that aside for now, knowing that is the background going into this. Like you said, I think it's good to do it at the top, but yeah, let's just engage with this thing as a movie. Ignorant of whatever real life stuff was going on, I guess.
Yeah. So the prologue, like you were starting to talk about. Yeah,
the two guys in a car singing at night, and you know what? This a few times I had this feeling, but maybe no more strongly than here, is that this felt like it was leading to something better. Like it has a great setup. And when I started watching this, I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a fun movie to watch. Like this is gonna be scary." And in the turning off the headlights while driving at night thing, he does it twice, and it feels like it's building to something, but it doesn't really go anywhere. You know, he gets the like, "You want to see something scary?" Obviously, line gets said, and then Dan Aykroyd, is saying it back, and it's meta because they start humming the Twilight Zone. Opening music and all that.
And more than that, they start talking about the episodes. They start naming their favorite episodes. So it was like very meta. They're like, And maybe I feel like for this time period, meta was like kind of a like, I don't know, novel thing. Like it was kind of a new thing that people were checking out. I don't know.
Maybe.
It was fun. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure
No, I mean, it was
goes way
talking to
back,
the
but
audience.
It was like,
you know what I mean? It was
right.
it was fourth wall breaking, because it was like, hey, remember these things?
And doing this, I think, is fun because this kind of does the same. It's just this idea that like, oh, the Twilight Zone, like it's all connected kind of thing, because we get like a connection later, and so like clearly everyone approaching this, they're massive fans of the original property, right? Like you can't be like Dan Aykroyd, I'm sure Albert Brooks, like all these people were huge fans of the original, and they're like, well, I would love to be involved in any way.
Yeah, and so they have this great setup, and then the payoff. It's like they didn't know what to do. It's what it felt like to me. They were just like, I don't know how to end this thing. Let's just have him pull over. Dan Aykroyd will say, you want to see something really scary? And then we'll build up. He'll turn away, we'll cut, and then he'll turn back and he'll have on a Halloween mask. And that's how we're going to end this thing. Like, I mean, it was more than that, obviously, but and he just kind of screamed and like grabbed him. It was... I really wanted something more from this opening, man. Like it felt like it was leading to something truly scary, and instead it was just kind of silly, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that almost across the board. There's a couple things here and there that I do want to talk about that I feel like are great, but most of this I feel like misses the not the point, but it kind of misses the mark in terms of like what the Twilight Zone brought to the table. And that's not to say that like Twilight Zone was campy, for sure. It was over the top, and it was very clear allegory. Like it wasn't like some like, oh, very subtle allegorical.
Always been very heavy-handed.
Right. And that's, I feel like maybe even more so in this movie here, is like everything is like a megaton hammer just coming down on you.
Yeah. Ham-fisted to the extreme. Absolutely.
Exactly. So I liked the segment. I like seeing Dan Aykroyd in this interesting role. Albert Brooks, like those two in a car as the prologue. That's a great setup, like you say. And I'm even all right with like you say, it doesn't really pay off all that much, and it doesn't feel very Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But for him to like turn and be like attacking him with a mask on was pretty funny.
Was he supposed to be a werewolf or something? I don't know. Couldn't quite tell what that was.
I don't know.
Some sort of
demon,
creature.
like Twilight Zone demon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be throughout. What was his thing? Oh, you want to see something really scary?
Yeah. Which was cool. I mean, I don't know. Again, like the line itself, the setup is almost cooler than the payoff, in my opinion. But, okay.
Yeah. Let's move to the first segment. This is the one directed by John Landis.
Yeah, talk about heavy-handed, right? This is. Although I will say, like, I was watching it, I'm like, God, we haven't gone anywhere as a species, have we? Like, this was 1980, It was when this came out, and they're like, we got to do an allegory about this white dude who is blaming immigrants for everything, and like minorities for every problem in his life, is treating the waitresses like trash, and is being an asshole, and his white dude friends are defending him somewhat, and he's dropping N-bombs, and just awful person. And I'm watching it going, this is what, 35 years later? Yeah, this could be out today as trying to make the same point, because the same assholes are out there, although maybe they're children or something, and now grown up to be the same assholes. It's sad. And I don't know that this is the way to, like, because you're still centering the white dude. Like, it's all about him and his need to grow and his need to learn, and it's that you don't really focus on all the harm he's doing. It's more just about him. He's the main character, and he has to be taught a lesson because cosmically the universe wants to educate him. And at the very least, I feel like we've moved beyond some of these stories, because they just are, like, obviously they're not working to some extent. Like, if you don't know any better and you're watching shit like this and like rooting for the guy, like, that guy is talking sense, I know it. He's someone I should look up to.
Well, it just feels very like preaching to the choir type thing, right? Like very
exactly.
Clearly,
yeah,
like,
most people who are watching it are like, he's so broadly terrible that you're gonna go, that guy's obviously bad. You shouldn't be saying that in front of people. You know what I mean? Like, wherever you come down on it, like. But the problem is that there needs to be a more nuanced discussion of it, and maybe make you analyze the less, like, because everybody can look at that guy and say he's a caricature of a racist, right? Like,
But even I just feel like so a racist watches this, they're not going to get anything out of it anyway. They're going to be like, whatever, this is like some whatever story.
No, I think it
doesn't
also
pertain to
gives
me.
them an out. You know what I mean? Because I feel like most racists are going to watch it and go, well, that's not me. I'm not that bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're still going to be able to
I don't
distance
know.
themselves from that guy. Most, obviously, there are some who are that bad.
There's definitely some people out there who are just like straight up like, I'm a racist at this point and I can't fucking stand it.
I don't know. I think a lot of racists deny it at heart. You know what I mean? Like they're like,
Yeah.
well, they're like, I'm not truly racist. I'm just a realist. You know, and they have all these like reasons to believe they're bullshit.
It's these like microaggressions too that they just like they don't even fathom, like they
Yeah.
don't understand that they're doing it to an extent, and they're like, I
Right.
don't, you know.
Yeah, because
think
they
of
weren't.
people
These weren't
differently, but won't
microaggressions.
admit
These were. This guy was dropping loud in bombs. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
it was so. It's so over the top that anybody can look at it and see that it's bad.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't trying to do like a nuanced social commentary of like, actually, I want you to think about what this guy's doing is actually really harmful. No, they're not doing that at all. It's
Right.
obvious. But anyway, so he takes a weird time travel-y thing through. He goes to like Nazi Germany, and you know it. Again, we have to talk about it a little bit, but like it kind of makes sense that this one didn't finish filming because it felt unfinished to me. I was like, what was the point of this? It just kind of stopped at one point. I thought for sure we were leading somewhere where it was like a almost like a Ghost of Christmas Past kind of deal where he's going to be taught a lesson, but then he kind of just gets left. So I think that was the plan, was to do that, and it just never happened.
Yeah. To talk about some positive stuff, I think that given this type of story, like with a decent production budget, it was interesting to see Nazi Germany. Like it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see like they were able to do it production value wise. Like they were able to like go there and like really do like a Vietnamese jungle and like,
how about those KKK members?
yeah.
They were, everything was so broad, right, and over the top.
Yeah.
It was because it's
pretty
like, if
wild.
those are the racists,
And so-
then like it's easy to not be that.
I read a quote that was basically, it was less of a quote and more of just like somebody saying this, so who knows how legit it is, but basically like John Landis was expecting this to be like the social commentary, like this would be like this would have impact for decades and stuff, and so it's just like,
Man.
I can see why he thought, like looking at the movie, I can see that he was like very clearly he did feel that it would be that impactful, but it just, I don't know, it kind of rings false in a lot of ways just because it's so broad.
It's kind of weak. Well, let's go to the next one. I don't even want to talk about this one anymore.
Yeah, I do want to say that in my opinion, these kind of go in ascending order in terms of quality.
Oh, maybe.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So this next one.
So this next one is Steven Spielberg's, which I don't know if you could tell, but it was a Steven Spielberg for sure.
I did not know that it was Steven Spielberg until the very end when I saw it in the credits. This was my least favorite of all of them.
Really?
Yeah,
I liked the other one less.
This did not feel like a Twilight Zone thing to me.
Agreed.
It
I agree with that.
It felt, and once again, heavy-handed. Be a child at heart, you know. So it's about a bunch of old elderly people. For those of you who haven't seen the movie recently, a bunch of elderly people, I guess, are visited kind of by this other elderly man who wants to play kick the can with them, and then there's this other guy who like, no, they're all too old, their bones will all break, and you know their heart won't be able to keep up to it. And he's like, no, you just got to get out there and play anyway. And finally convinces them to do it, and then they turn into like children version of themselves who still speak with like similar accents and stuff.
It was wild for sure. They like, we talk about Spielberg getting good child performances, but these are not them.
These are. I mean, I feel like in isolation, some of them are okay, and it's like they were asked to do some crazy shit. Like,
oh, for sure.
You
And
know?
like I said, like you have to also, in my opinion, you have to think of the fact that like Spielberg just was like, I want to get in and out. Honestly,
it felt that way.
So, like,
it felt
yeah.
sloppy and rushed. And
it did feel like kind of like. Like it did not fit the tone of a Twilight Zone episode. It fit the tone of like a Spielberg film, in my opinion. Like there was this sort of whimsical like childhood, like the score rises and it makes you feel like, I don't know. Not saying that it necessarily worked. I'm just saying that like I could tell that like there was at least a Spielberg spin to this.
Yeah, it in my opinion, it went on too long. It didn't fit the tone of a Twilight Zone movie at all. It's bizarre that this is one of the 4 things we got. And yeah, I just didn't find it that interesting, honestly. It felt very heavy-handed. It felt like it also felt condescending. Like I felt like if I was an elderly person watching this, I'd hate it. because it's like really, you don't think I understand what value there is in being my age and the knowledge I've accrued, that you're gonna have to tell me like, oh, maybe you want to be an old person because you've learned a lot. And like it felt condescending to me if I'm elderly, and if I'm younger, I'm looking at it like, this is stupid. I don't know. I didn't like this one at all, man. This is probably my least favorite. This is obviously, I didn't know anything about the first one, and knowing what I know about it now, I think culturally that's the worst.
Right.
But this one, I was like, man, what is the point of this? And again, it felt overstuffed. It went on for a long time.
We did get Dick Halloran. Did you realize that?
Yeah. I was like, this guy's really familiar, and I had to think about who he was. There's a few familiar faces coming out, throughout this. This wouldn't be before, right? The Shining was.
Oh, you're right. It was right after The Shining. It was 1980 was The Shining.
Yeah, and this was 83, so this had to be after.
Yeah. Okay, so the third one.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on 3 and 4 being the best of the bunch for me. Yeah. So I agree with that. I think this will be an interesting one to dig into.
If all 4 segments were of the quality of 3 and 4, this would be, I think, a more well-regarded movie, right?
Yeah, I agree. They feel, and clearly the fourth one. So I believe 2, 3, and 4 are based on Twilight Zone episodes. Now, I'm pretty sure I've seen all the Twilight Zone episodes, but I can't remember the specifics to what they correlate to. But I know Kick the Can, which was the second one, was definitely based on another Twilight Zone episode from the original. And then this one, I can't remember one that's similar to this from the series, but I read online that they're all based on, these 3 are based on existing.
Well, that makes sense, honestly. Thinking back of the last one, like, I bet you there's because I'm not a huge Twilight Zone person. I've seen random shit, and like, I remember certain kinds of episodes, but there were probably episodes that were a lot like Kick the Can, like feel good episodes. Like, I'm sure they had those like every now and then. So maybe they felt like they needed to have one like that in the movie to kind of create, like, have the whole texture of what the show was like. So that maybe that explains a little bit why it was like a Twilight Zone segment.
Yeah, I that was my takeaway from the second one, was basically just that, like, knowing that it was based on an existing episode, and then he just like Spielberged it up. It did feel like a Spielberg version.
I love how you use it as like a verb. Spielberg this thing.
Spielberg it.
Whenever you're directing your own movie, I want you to say like, time to Spielberg this scene.
But the thing is, that's what I was gonna say, is like, technically, I was in terms of tone, I would say Spielberging it up, but in terms of like technical like achievements or anything like that, there's not like any like interesting wonders which Steven Spielberg's known for, or like anything really like that goes above and beyond to make it. I don't know. Spielberg.
I can see that. So this third one, man, Little Anthony, it starts somewhere completely different than when you think it's going to go. And I truly, until the rabbit popped out of the hat, the demon rabbit, I didn't remember this. I was like, have I ever seen this? Like, I had no memory of it. This woman hits a kid on the bike, which like I thought looked remarkably convincing. And then she takes the kid home, and when she gets there, like something crazy is going on. She's like, what is going on in this house? It's a weird house. The people there are behaving strangely. They're like overly excited. They're like fawning over little Anthony. He calls them like, oh, brother and sister, and they're like they're way older than him, so you know something's weird with that, right? And I don't know, it's creepy. Like, there's a weird setup. This is based off a short story I read. I think it's called "It Was a Good Life" or something like that. That I am curious about now.
Well, maybe I think maybe that's what I was interpreting from what I was reading. Maybe all of them were based on existing material, not necessarily Twilight Zone episodes. Because I think Kick the Can and Nightmare at 20,000 were definitely Twilight Zone.
Yeah, and then but they were also based off a short story. So that's the thing. Like, this might have been a short story that then inspired an episode of Twilight Zone that then inspired this. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'd have to go back through it. But
this is making me realize that I need to go do another rewatch through Twilight Zone and just like rewatch a bunch of episodes.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
So what did you think of this segment, man? I'm curious.
I actually love this segment. This, like I said, this might be my favorite. I think in terms of, I don't know. If the story was a little bit stronger, I think it'd be my favorite. Just because the story is like, it's all over the place.
There were some strong practical effects, like monster effects, man.
It looked great. It looked incredible. I was like really surprised.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little silly, but like, there were supposed to be sort of like it's like
Cartoons.
if you took a cartoon and you put flesh on it and you made it into a real thing, and but you kept all the crazy cartoon proportions of stuff, it would be horrifying. And that's kind of the idea behind it, was like these cartoons made flesh. And
and a lot of the powers and everything too, like the TV breaking apart, and like the you know, the couch is moving, like it's just everything that goes on with all of that
dude
stuff.
Okay, so that the moment where the like spinning thing comes out of the TV and comes towards them, and like you said, the couch splits apart. That moment was like my nightmares, honestly, like, because I remember being terrified of like, what is in this fucking whirling tornado, and then when it stops, it's horrifying. It's a horrifying cartoon monster made flesh. And yeah, I don't know, man. As a kid who like grew up watching cartoons, it was like it made me like look at them a new way, like, oh my god.
Right. And like I loved that they dropped one of the characters into the cartoon. Like that was fun. It was just fun and wacky and weird. And the story fit that. Like it was very all over the place. Like it just didn't really have any sort of like, I don't know. The moral of the story is very clear, but in terms of like the events that happen, it's kind of all over the place.
So who directed this one?
This is Joe Dante.
Joe Dante. Yeah, do I know him from anything else?
You do. You definitely do. You're going to be excited to hear. So, he directed Gremlins. I would say.
Oh, nice. I like Gremlins.
Which is like so like you could tell,
fitting,
right? Like you could tell from this. Inner Space. Have you seen Inner Space?
No, I haven't.
Inner Space, The Howling, and one that I loved as a kid, Small Soldiers. Did you ever see Small Soldiers?
Oh yeah, I did see Small Soldiers. I don't remember it very well, but I did see it. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it in like 20 years probably, but I loved it.
Cool. Yeah. I was amazed to see some of the names attached to this thing. Yeah. Let's move on to the fourth one. So this was our one that is actually the project we covered originally. We read the story. We did all the different versions. So, had you seen this before?
I think so. Yeah. I didn't remember it all that well. I think I had seen it for sure. I at least seen like the John Lithgow freak out.
I think this is. I mean, like, it's a little over the top watching it all the way through, but like, I think this is the best version of this story, in my opinion. It's authentic to the original short story, because like the new one kind of isn't. They kind of just completely went a different route with it.
Right.
But
with the like the kinetic, it was such a like George Miller directed this, and it was such a George Miller project.
Really,
it was like so like when he's freaking out and like running all over the place and everybody's holding him down.
Yeah,
it's just like it just feels so like kinetic and like full of energy and all that. And I think I could tell that it was George Miller, even if you hadn't told me that. But in terms of like just like even the creature on the wing,
so good, such a good design,
so good.
I mean, compared to the ridiculous ape that we had in the
pig,
the original version.
Yeah, I want to like I would love to read like snobs who loved, and like look, I love that original episode as well, but they're just like the original character design was better. I would love to like just see
the monster design
felt that way when this one
so
came
there's
out.
There's a YouTube video. I think I might have shared this with you when we originally watched it. I'm not certain, but someone spliced all of the footage of the monster from this movie, and they put it into the original version with William Shatner. So when he looks out out the window, this is what he's seeing, and it works pretty well. Honestly, I was amazed at how well it worked.
So I read that originally they were gonna have William Shatner reprise the role and do it again. Yeah, but I guess he was like committed to something else.
Well, I mean, John Lithgow's great though, and he really went for it with this role, man. Like you could tell this was a disturbed guy. He really sold the like fear of like the deep fear of flying this guy had. Really played it. And this is the one where I was saying, I think in our coverage we talked about it being like Jaws, but for air travel. Mm-hmm. This is the one that I saw that I've always thought of. You know what I mean? Like when I'm on a plane now. And this is what drove home to me the idea that flying in a plane could be a frightening thing, for better or for worse. Like it scared me.
Just to talk about the effects again, when I was watching it, I thought I saw something really interesting happen where I saw like it was the creature and then it flashed to John Lithgow and I thought I saw something weird, so I took it back a couple times.
Looked like his eyes were like popping out, right?
Yeah. Did you like I went and freeze framed it? It was crazy. They put like practical like bloating eyes on his face, and like it's just like a one like frame. I would say like maybe like like half a second full of frames.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just like in there, and it's like his eyes are, and it's like the creature, you're looking at the creature and then you're looking at him, and it's this weird uncanny thing where you're like, is he becoming the creature? Is the creature
Right.
affecting him in this way?
Or
Like,
is that
what's
is that
happening?
him? Yeah. Is it possessing him or something?
But it was like
Yeah.
otherworldly, and it was
super
cool.
weird. Yeah, you're right. I did catch that, and I didn't go back and watch it again, but I caught it and remember noting it at the time. Like, that was a kind of an interesting choice, and it makes you think like maybe this is all in his head. Kind of has that effect on it,
Yeah.
which is then kind of shown. Oh, which we should, then at the end we get the throwback to the original. You want to see something really scary, and it's funny because I had seen this part without I think ever seeing the beginning of the movie, and so I never knew what that meant, and it always seemed like it was something way scarier in my mind, you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh God, what is that referencing? It was the unknown, and it was like, he must do something really crazy, and it was really frightening to me. But like, now I know what it was. It's like, oh no, it's not that scary.
I think that we should talk about the change too, right? Because I think in the original we were left to think like, oh, who is he really crazy? It didn't was the plane was the wing destroyed? Do we get like
oh
that
yeah,
kind of
you're
shot
talking
in
about the original story.
well?
No, in the story, it's potentially all in his head. We never get outside confirmation. It could just be potentially something he's hallucinating. Yeah.
In this one, they like freak out. They're like, look at the wing. What happened up there and all this stuff. So it's like,
yeah, it was cool.
And then I guess made more scary by the fact that like, who knows what really did that, and maybe Dan Aykroyd's character is the creature and he's driving him away.
That's what I always assumed. I was like, he must be the creature. I don't know why they didn't show it, but he must be the creature at the end. And I thought we were gonna get a shot of him transforming or something, but he never does. Like I could have sworn like one of those weird Mandela effects. I was like, doesn't he turn around and he's the monster? But he doesn't.
Yeah.
He just says that, and then it goes to the exterior, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. So shout out to John Lithgow's performance too, because I think he was easily one of the best parts. I actually
absolutely.
did like what's his man, Scatman's
Carruthers,
I think of his name right now, but the Dick Halloran, that actor I felt like was pretty. He was fitting for the role. I thought he did pretty good.
I agree. Well, all right, man. We did it. We watched it. It was fun. It's a good way to kind of bring in the Halloween season. Got me in the mood, So hopefully our listeners will enjoy that too. We got some fun stuff planned this month. We're going to be doing Harry Potter, which we announced recently, and then followed by Watchmen. So if you want to get started on that stuff, look for those episodes coming soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being patrons and for listening to this coverage. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. All right. Until next time.
Thanks for listening.